What's up, everybody? We're here to go over UFC Vegas, what is it, 79? Yeah, 79, Fiziev versus Gamrot. So here's the situation, man. I'm sorry I'm 2 days late on my video. I had some issues. I've actually done this video twice already, and both times my soundboard was messing up, and it was there was no sound on it. So also, man, this is supposed to be my vacation, so I'm gonna try and make the video quicker than usual. I know my videos are usually almost an hour long. Just trying to relax this week, and of course, me doing the video 3 times now doesn't help at all. So, but yeah, man. So please like and subscribe, guys. It would really help me out a lot. I appreciate all you guys that are posting your stuff in the Facebook group and everything, and thank you very much, man. So if you're new to the channel, what I do is I go through and I give out all my picks for each fight, and at the end of the video, I give out my bets. And if you're not interested in watching my videos, you just want to see my picks and my bets, you can go to my social medias. Instagram and TikTok are both highkick_fight picks. There's also a Facebook group, High Kick Fight Picks on Facebook. It's easy to find. And also this show is available on Spotify, Pandora, iTunes, all that stuff. Almost nobody listens to it on there, but if you do, please give me a good rating, man. It'd help me out a lot. So yeah, let's go over the results for last week real quick for UFC 293. Super happy that Sean Strickland won. I picked Adesanya to win, but I did, like I told you, I put $100 on Sean just because, and I was glad he won, man. I couldn't believe it, you know. Yeah, man. I mean, I'm super happy that he won, and so yeah, as far as my bets go, man, I had my 2 big plays hit. I had a 2-unit play on Carlos Ulberg at -265. And then I had a 2-fight parlay that was a 2-unit play at -125, and that was Manel Kopp and Carlos Ulberg. So those paid off for me, but I also had a 1-unit play on Jack Jenkins. You know, what can you do, man? He won the first round. The second round, he was getting kind of held up against the cage. You know, the guy wasn't really doing anything. And then, yeah, he dislocated his elbow on trying to post on the throw, man. It happens, so unfortunately, so... But then I also had a small play on Austin Lane that was just like, it was under a quarter unit, about $200. So not a big deal there. I did come out with some profit, man, but didn't go anywhere near as good as I hoped it would. But you know, didn't lose any money. So, and as far as my big parlays goes, I think you know Jenkins pretty much killed all my parlays. I didn't have too much riding on those, and I didn't rebuild. Usually I'll try to rebuild them or whatever, but I didn't do it. Yeah, man, so as far as that's the results of that, man. Let's get over here and check out this card. And, yeah, man, so this is a card that I kind of had a little bit of trouble getting excited for, you know, running the tape on it and stuff like that. There's a few good fights on here, but for the most part, you know, most of this card, I'm like, I don't, you know, whatever, you know, I don't care. But there are, like, the main event's great, you know, Charles Jourdain versus Ricardo Ramos is great. I'll always love to see Danny Gay fight. But yeah, there's quite a few fights on this card that I'm like, yeah, whatever. And honestly, if I didn't have my YouTube channel, I probably would have just not bet on this card. But I feel obligated to do some bets, even though I'm, you know, just didn't see much on this card that I liked really. But I did put a few bets in, you know, just because. So I have something to show you guys and whatever. But I try to keep it. Try to keep it as quick as I can on this one, guys. And if you're new to the channel, it wouldn't be this way all the time. My videos are usually an hour long. But let's get into this card. First up, we got Jacob Malkoun taking on Cody Brundage. And Jacob Malkoun he's 28 years old, 5'9", with a 73-inch reach. He is 7-2 and 3-2 in the UFC, and he's a -475 favorite. And yeah, Jacob is primarily known for his wrestling and his grappling. I think he was Robert Whittaker's wrestling coach. I don't know if he still is or not, but I know he used to be. Doesn't have the best striking, although he is getting better, but he's just relentless with his takedowns, man. And, you know, he arguably could have won the Brendan Allen fight. A lot of people thought he won that fight, man. So that's an impressive, performance even if he didn't get the decision. He's kind of short and stocky for middleweight. He was popping his jab very well in his last fight. Great single legs, great trips, very strong with his body lock takedowns. His boxing did look a lot better in his last fight, but is definitely not his forte or whatever. What he does do very well is he can get guys focused on defending the takedown so much that he can land good shots on the feet when they're not properly defending. He's good for 4 or 5 takedowns, pretty much every fight. If you're a prize picks better or whatever, he's usually good for quite a few takedowns. He has 2 wins by knockout, no wins or losses by submission, and he'll have a 1-inch reach advantage in this fight. And I expect him to have the wrestling advantage here and the cardio advantage as well in this fight. I know Brundage has a wrestling background, but I do think Malkoun is going to be better there. He's taking on Cody Brundage. He's 29 years old, 6 foot tall with a 72-inch reach. He is 8-5 and 2-4 in the UFC, and he's a plus 375 underdog. So Cody is on a 3-fight losing streak right now, and I gotta say, for the most part, he really hasn't looked good in the UFC. Aside from landing that big shot on Tresean Gore when he got that knockout, and in the other fight that he won in the UFC, the Dolce Lungbula fight, he was getting destroyed and ended up getting a lucky guillotine. And yeah, last time out he got out wrestled by a guy who isn't really known for his wrestling, Cedricus Dumas. So that was kind of surprising to me, man. And Cody's cardio has always seemed to be pretty terrible, and I think the only advantage he has in this fight is going to be that he's got a little bit more power than Malkoun on the feet. He is very fast and explosive in the first round, the first few minutes of the fight. In his last fight, he just looked like he resigned himself to losing a decision, man. He wasn't putting his feet on the hips, trying to get up off of his back, and his guard was just closed. And so, yeah, man, I'm not sure what was up with that, and he has decent submissions when he can get there. Nice guillotine choke. He's got 4 wins by knockout, 3 wins by submission. And, yeah, he's really cost himself in his last few fights, by jumping guillotine when he doesn't, completely have it, and he winds up on bottom. I think he's done it in at least his past 2 fights. I expect the pressure of Malkoun to really wear on Cody, and by the second round, Cody's probably going to be gassed out. And I think Malkoun will keep pressuring him until he gets him down and end up winning a unanimous decision. I did think about going Malkoun by submission, but just because he has no wins by submission yet, I am going to just say decision. But it is very possible that he could get a late submission on a very tired Cody Brundage. Next up, we got Tim Means taking on Andre Fialho. And, yeah, they move some of these fights around, so got to track this one down on my notes real quick. Tim Means is 39 years old, 6'2", with a 75-inch reach. He is 32-15-1 and 14-12-1 in the UFC, and he's a plus 171 underdog. Yeah, he has 19 wins by knockout and 5 wins by submission. Things haven't been looking good for Tim lately. He does tend to come on late in fights. If he gets to the 3rd round, he does start to really push the pace. He got beaten by Alex Morono last time out. Man, he uses good teep kicks. He fights southpaw, goes to the body a lot with his strikes. He hits very hard. He likes to slip the punches in close and counter with the right hand. He's been submitted in 2 of his last 3 fights. He did land some good shots in the Morono fight in the first round, but before he got submitted. Fialho doesn't fight that way, though. He likes to strike. I don't think he's going to have to worry about submissions coming from Fialho. Means is going to have a 1-inch reach advantage, and this is a winnable fight for him, kind of. I could see a world where he wins this fight. He's probably the more well-rounded fighter here, more experienced, even though Andre Fialho is very experienced. Andre has been knocked out 3 times in a row now, so... and Tim's hard to put away on the feet, man, and he's the more technical striker, in my opinion, probably. At least he was, in his prime. And he's taking on Andre Fialho. He is 29 years old, 6 foot tall with a 74-inch reach. He is 16-7 and 2-4 in the UFC, and he's a minus 200 favorite. And yeah, he's got 13 wins by knockout, 1 win by submission. He has been knocked out 5 times total in his career. He's fought all over the place: Bellator, the PFL, LFA. Had a couple of nice knockouts early on in his UFC career, but hasn't really looked good since then. Jake Matthews doesn't knock a lot of people out, and he knocked out Andre Fialho, so that was surprising to me. And he does have nice boxing, really relies on his power a lot. It's taken him very far, with all these knockouts. It's hard to pick between 2 guys who have lost their last 3 fights. I kind of want to pick Tim Means, but just because he hasn't been getting knocked out at least. But I do think, I do think Andre will have the speed and power advantage. You know, he's been looking more patient, you know, looking for counters rather than going in crazy, you know, getting caught with shots. He was doing pretty well against Joaquin Buckley until he got hit with that kick, and it didn't matter who you are, that kick would have taken you out, man. So I wouldn't blame anybody for taking Tim Means here. And I thought coming into this that I was going to go with Tim Means, but I am going to take Fialho to win. I'm going to take him to win by knockout in round 2, man. I just think he looked a little bit better in his losses than Tim Means has, you know, in his losses, even though he got knocked out, if that makes sense. Next up, we got Miles Johns taking on Daniel Argueta. And Miles Johns is 29 years old. 29 years old, 5'7" with a 66-inch reach. He is 13-2 and 4-2 in the UFC, and he's a plus 185 underdog. Yeah, so this guy has a lot of potential. He's got big power, but it is worrying at times to put money on him because he often doesn't throw a lot of volume. He does tend to slow down quite a bit, you know, as the fight goes on. But his power does carry over into the third round. He's had 2 third-round knockouts in the UFC. He has a wrestling background, doesn't use it very much. His last fight against Vince Morales, I honestly thought he could have lost that fight. The judges gave it to him, but I had money on him, and I was disappointed in his performance. He's very explosive and powerful, kind of one-dimensional, doesn't throw a lot of kicks, likes to sit back and counter. He was supposed to fight Ronnie Barcelos a few months ago. I wish that fight had came through. But the thing is, man, all it takes is one shot from Miles, and who's to say he's not going to come back and have really improved and throw more kicks and use his wrestling and really mix it up well. I'm not totally convinced that Argueta will be able to get Miles down because Miles has like a 93% takedown defense. Hasn't really been fighting any super good, you know, other than the guys that beat him, you know, Batista and whatever. But he's fighting out of Fortis MMA. You know, it's one of the best camps around. He has 4 wins by knockout, 2 wins by submission. And yeah, like I said, he's only lost to Mario Batista and John Castaneda, who I consider to be a pretty good fighter. And he's taking on Daniel Argueta. He is 30 years old, 5'7" with a 68-inch reach. He is 9-1 and 9-1-1 and 1-1-1 in the UFC, and one of them's a no contest. He's a minus 220 favorite. So his last fight, he was winning dominantly over Ronnie Lawrence, and the ref just jumped in too soon before Lawrence tapped, thinking he was tapping. But he was really winning that fight, and I was surprised that he out-wrestled Lawrence like that, you know, very easily. But my theory on that is that, you know, I don't believe that Ronnie Lawrence has a legit, you know, wrestling background. That's just kind of how he fights, and he's really been learning that, and that's how he likes to fight. So he has had success against guys that are, like, not legit wrestlers. But when he fights guys that are, like, legit wrestlers, he doesn't stand a chance. I'm talking about Ronnie Lawrence now. Because, like, when Ronnie fought Sayed Cub Kakramanov, you know, he got destroyed. Daniel Argueta, you know, was able to easily wrestle him and dominate him on the ground. You know, I think Argueta saw that and was able to capitalize on it as well, man. He looked really good there. He made his debut up a weight class against Damon Jackson, and even though he lost, he didn't take a lot of damage. He just kind of got out-wrestled by a bigger guy. Argueta's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage, 2 wins by knockout, 4 wins by submission. You know, very powerful and fast, man. Great ground and pound, dangerous jiu-jitsu. I'm gonna go with Argueta here to get the win, mostly because of his cardio advantage. You know, I think Johns might be better on the feet and more powerful, but he doesn't put out as much volume, and I think Argueta's pressure will eventually get to Johns, and he'll have success late in the fight. So I'm gonna take Argueta to win by decision, even though I'd like to see Johns win, but not anymore because, you know, I ended up putting a little something on on Argueta. But anyways. Next up, we got Montserrat Rendon taking on Tamiris Vidal. And Montserrat is 34 years old, 5'8" with a 68-inch reach. She is 5-0, and this is going to be her UFC debut. She's a plus 174 underdog. Yeah, looking at all her stuff, man, I'm not sure why she's getting this shot, you know, in the UFC without going on the Contender Series at least, or something, you know, with that little of a record. All of her wins have been by decision. Maybe they were just really trying hard to get Vidal a fight. I don't know. Even Rendon's last win was a split decision as well, so it wasn't like she won dominantly. Hasn't really fought anybody with super high-level experience. She does have nice boxing. I think she has a jiu-jitsu background, if I'm not mistaken. So she did compete in some grappling competitions. As a matter of fact, she got beaten by Juliana Miller in a grappling competition about a year ago. So considering what Miller's gone on to do in the UFC, I guess that's not a good look. Uh, Hard to say much more based on the competition she's been facing. Won't know more until we see her in the UFC against better competition. She may have a slight size advantage in this fight. She's a couple inches taller. Their reaches are the same, so no one's got an advantage there. And Tamires Vidal is 25 years old, 5'6" with a 68-inch reach. She is 7-1 and 1-0 in the UFC, and she's a minus 204 favorite. And yeah, even though we haven't got to really see much from Vidal at a high level, I do like what I've seen from her. She hits hard. She's explosive. We saw that with that flying knee to the body that she won her last fight with in her debut. One knockout and 2 wins by submission. Throws nice calf kicks. She'll probably have a power advantage here. Does go to the body a lot with her kicks and her punches. I think she might be the more well-rounded fighter here out of these two, but I'm not super confident in this fight, man, either way. I don't agree with the lines being as high as they are in Vidal. I think it should be more like a minus 150, but yeah, just because we haven't seen much of her yet, man. We've only seen a couple minutes of her in the UFC, so. But I am going to be going with Vidal, and I'm just going with her because of her UFC experience, and she's fought the tougher competition so far out of these two, so I'm going to take her to win by decision. Next up, we got Jake Collier taking on Muhammad Usman. And Jake Collier is 34 years old, almost 35, 6'3" with a 78.5-inch reach. He is 13-9 and 5-8 in the UFC, and he's a plus 135 underdog. And I know he hasn't looked good, necessarily lately, but he did go out there and bust up Martin Bidet in the first round in his last fight. I mean, I was actually worried for a minute there because I had money on Bidet, a big play on him, and Jake Collier went out there and was landing a lot of good shots, man. So he had me scared for a minute. He used to be a middleweight, man. He does usually have a speed advantage over most heavyweights. It just makes you wonder how committed he may be because you go from middleweight all the way up to heavyweight, and he doesn't seem to be even thinking about at least trying to get back down to 205 or get in better shape, even though he hasn't had very much success at heavyweight. So it just kind of makes you wonder. I do want Jake to win this fight. I'd like to see him win. I think he is a better striker out of these two. Good boxing. He usually always has some early success, and the cardio is what ends up costing him, the fight. He goes real hard straight away and then fades, Honestly, watching it back, man, the Bidet fight was pretty close. I mean, I guess maybe I was being hard on Bidet, and, I could have saw the fight going either way, honestly. I know Bidet won the third round, but, Collier doesn't throw a lot of kicks, man. He does throw a ton of volume in the first, few minutes of the fight. It just kind of sucks that now that he's at heavyweight, we don't get to see the other skills he may have had down at 185, or 205. He's too big to be wrestling or going for submissions, and even though he did submit Chase Sherman, but, whatever. He's pretty one-dimensional is what I'm saying now, and he could get a KO. It could happen. It's possible. He's got 5 wins by knockout, 4 wins by submission. I just don't think it's likely here. And he's taking on Muhammad Usman. He is 34 years old, 6'2", with a 79-inch reach. He is 9-2 and 2-0 in the UFC, and he's a minus 155 favorite. He's going to have a 1.5-inch reach advantage, 4 wins by knockout, 2 wins by submission. His biggest advantage in this fight are going to be his wrestling and cardio. Even though his cardio isn't the best, it is better than Jake's in my opinion. Muhammad did prove in his last fight that he can wrestle for 3 rounds. He may have a power advantage here. He's just not the best striker in my opinion yet. He's still kind of working on that. He usually comes in under the 265-pound limit, so he gets around a lot better. He's more explosive. He's good at controlling guys up against the cage. I don't think very highly of Usman, but I think he's going to get exposed soon probably, but I think they're doing a good job right now of giving him favorable matchups, good matchups for him. And I think he's going to go out there and keep Collier up against the cage and wear on him and take him down and probably get a boring decision or maybe a late ground and pound finish or something. I don't know, but I see it being a pretty boring fight, but I think Muhammad Usman is going to easily win this fight, even though I'd rather see, Jake win, but take Usman by decision. Next up, we got Mizuki Inoue taking on Hannah Goldy. Sorry. This fight was like way up the card before. So Mizuki Inoue is 29 years old, 5'3" with a 64-inch reach. She is 14-6 and 1-1 in the UFC, and she's a -275 favorite. Hasn't fought in 3 years. Her only win in the UFC is over someone who went 1-5 in the UFC, so not a very impressive win. She's never won a fight by knockout, but does have 9 submission wins on her record, and also she has been submitted 5 times as well, so that's something to think about. Even though she has a kickboxing and karate background, she's never finished someone with strikes. You know, I don't see a -275 favorite here really. She's gonna have a 3-inch reach advantage. Throws a lot of feints to set up her strikes. Likes to really wear on her opponents. Good at holding people up against the cage. Dangerous off of her back. What else, man? She got destroyed by Amanda Lemos in her last fight, and it was 3 years ago, man. So I don't know what she's been doing since then. I don't know if she was thinking about retiring, or what. So you kind of got to wonder about that. It's a big X factor in this. And she's taking on Hannah Goldy. She is 31 years old, 5'4" with a 61-inch reach. She is 6-3 and 1-3 in the UFC, and she's a +235 underdog. Yeah, if anything, Goldy will have a the power advantage. You know, she's very muscular and pretty big for her size. 1 win by knockout, 1 win by submission. I do think she got into the UFC just way too quick in her career, and it hasn't gone well for her so far. I'm sure she spent the last year working hard after her last loss, but anything could happen here. Anything could happen here. I mean, I kind of want to go with Goldy just based on her being more active, but I'm not, because I do think Inoue has the better skills out of these two. So I'll take Inoue to win by decision. There, I finally went through one fight quickly without talking for 10 minutes. Next up, we got Marina Rodriguez taking on Michelle Waterson Gomez. And Rodriguez is 36 years old, 5'6" with a 65-inch reach. She is 16-3-2 and 6-3-2 in the UFC, and she's a -300 favorite. 6 wins by knockout, 1 win by submission, and she's very good, man. She's been around the top of the division for a while. She's only lost to really good competition. She has pretty good striking, good power. She's had a few wins by finish in the UFC. I'd say she's pretty well-rounded, man. She's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage here. She's going to be the better striker as far as with the hands, with the boxing. She has very fast hands, throws a lot of volume, throws a lot of calf kicks, has a good Muay Thai foundation. She has struggled with really good grapplers in the past at times. She's never been submitted or anything like that, but, she just has been held down by a couple people, in pretty boring fights, But, yeah, there's just she's already beaten Gomez once before, man. This is going to be their second fight, and the last time I think it was a 5-round fight. And she just used her height and reach, very well in that matchup. And she's going to have a major speed advantage. She starts everything off with the left hand and just to get the range, and then her right hand is nasty down the middle. She's been doing Muay Thai since she was 12 years old, man. And they both have good cardio, so I don't expect anybody to be getting tired here. But I do think Rodriguez is probably going to be getting the win here, man. But so Gomez is 37 years old, 5'3" with a 62-inch reach. She is 18-11 and 6-7 in the UFC, and she's a +250 underdog. And yeah, her kicks are her best weapons. Throws really good side kicks. Has that karate background. She has to use her kicks in this fight, man, because she's at such a height and reach disadvantage. She's got to throw the kicks from the outside and then counter when Rodriguez steps into the pocket, or shoot for takedowns. That would probably be her best option, really. She is a lifelong martial artist. She does have sharp striking. There's not a lot of people out there that kick with their front leg like she does, and she can catch people off guard with that. But based on how the last fight went, I've got to go with Rodriguez here. I don't think Gomez is going to be able to get the takedowns. That's not her forte, really. I think Rodriguez is going to be able to use the height and reach again and get another decision win here. Next up, we got Brian Battle taking on AJ Fletcher. This should be a pretty exciting fight while it lasts. Both of these guys are kind of finishers, man. Unless AJ Fletcher, when he wins, he's a finisher anyway. When he loses, he goes to a decision. So Brian Battle is 29 years old, 6'1" with a 77-inch reach. He is 9-2 and 4-1 in the UFC. He's a -190 favorite. He's got 3 wins by knockout, 4 wins by submission. Coming off a really impressive knockout over Gabe Green. If he has a weakness, it's going to be his takedown defense, but it's really hard to say that because, the guy who out-wrestled him is a very good Russian wrestler. They take everybody down. He is very powerful. He's going to have a 10-inch reach advantage in this fight. So I believe he's going to have the better striking out of these two. He's got good jiu-jitsu. He's very offensive off of his back. His wins, other than Gabe Green, have been over guys with not as much experience, or like the Takashi Sato fight. He's been struggling to get any wins in the UFC, and so not the best at competition. Even Gabe Green has struggled to get wins in the UFC. So there is that to think about. It's just something to think about if you're planning on betting on this fight. So this could be a lot closer fight than the line may indicate. But man, it just kind of comes down to how good Brian Battle's takedown defense is going to be in this fight, probably. And he's taking on AJ Fletcher. He's 26 years old, 5'10", with a 67-inch reach. He is 10-2 and 1-2 in the UFC. And he's a plus 165 underdog. Yeah, this guy, like I said, he's a finisher, man. All of his wins have been by finish, 4 knockouts, 5 by submission. His 2 losses in the UFC have been to guys I consider to be pretty good, Semmelsberger and Ange Loosa. And, that was a war he had with Loosa, and he almost finished Loosa in the second round. He had him hurt, very badly. He did have a relatively easy win over Themba Gorimbo, in his last fight. Even though Gorimbo had his moments, Fletcher ended up, dominating with the wrestling and getting the submission. Very powerful and explosive, man. He's always at a bad reach disadvantage. He's used to that, I'm sure. Has nice sweeps, good at reversing positions on the ground and ending up on top. Which is what he's going to want to do in this fight, man. He's going to want to use that wrestling. He's never been finished. Great submissions, really nice guillotine choke, very good elbows in close. I think he'll have the grappling advantage in this fight. Not super confident in that, just because, like I said, the only guy that's really out-grappled Battle has been a really good fighter. So I don't think Fletcher's going to want to stay on the feet here. What else, man? What else? I know everybody's going with Battle here. I kind of want to pick Fletcher, man. But I just don't know if I can trust him to fight smart here. He does go out there and get in wars with people. So I'm going to be going with Battle, man. And I would say that just because Fletcher's never been finished, I'll take him to win by decision. But it is possible he could get the knockout, man. You never know. Next up, we got Charles Jourdain taking on Ricardo Ramos. This might be a fight of the night. Fight of the night right here. I'm a big fan of both of these guys, man. So it's kind of hard for me to. It's hard for me to do this one. Big fan of Charles Jourdain. Love the way he fights. And he is 27 years old, 5'9", with a 69-inch reach. He has 14-6-1 and 5-5-1 in the UFC, and he's a minus 123 favorite. And yeah, what I like most about him is how he comes on very strong in the third round, man. He starts screaming at guys, throwing hard combinations, just going crazy, man. And he always dominates in the third round, And he's very good, man. Very fast, creative kickboxer. I like how active he stays. He fought 4 times in 2022. And I actually scored the Shane Burgos fight for Jourdain. He was destroying Burgos, in the third round of that fight, beating the crap out of him. His kicks are one of his best weapons, especially when he's fighting out of the southpaw stance. Really good dirty boxing in close and in the clinch. He's worked a lot on his ground game and his takedown defense. He's really been trying to round his game out. Coming off a pretty easy win for him against Chrome Gracie. Gracie's only good at one thing, and Charles was able to keep it on the feet and pick him apart from the outside. He didn't go too crazy and leave himself available to be sweeped or anything. Throws a really nice uppercut, man. He fights well from both stances. He pushes a crazy pace, throws a ton of volume. He landed over 90 strikes in the third round against Shane Burgos, just in the third round. And very exciting to watch, man. His speed and accuracy are really good. Very impressive, man. And I'm just curious how he's going to choose to approach this fight. He has 8 wins by knockout and 4 wins by submission. And he's taking on Ricardo Ramos. He is 28 years old, 5'9", with a 72-inch reach. He is 16-4 and 7-3 in the UFC, and he's a plus 103 underdog. And yeah, so he hasn't fought in over a year now, but I'm sure he's been working hard, man. His losses in the UFC have been against some of the best guys that are the best guys in the division that aren't in the top, 5 or 10. Tukov was on a roll 2 years ago, so I can understand that. And Lerone Murphy, I think he hasn't been beaten yet, so. And I think he also lost to Said Nurmagomedov, so those are all really tough guys, man. He has a couple of wins by spinning back elbow. He's very good at that move, but he does go for it a little bit too much, in my opinion. But he does have success with it, so I guess you can't hate on him too much for that, man. His last win, I think, was actually with the spinning back elbow over a guy who hasn't really done well in the UFC, but it was a good opportunity for him to get back in there and get a quick finish. He's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage. You know, he's a pretty good sized featherweight. I think he used to fight at lightweight. He has 4 wins by knockout, 7 wins by submission. I would say that he definitely has the grappling and jiu-jitsu advantage in this fight, but he does usually fight on the feet most of the time. He's very powerful, kind of relies on landing the big strikes rather than putting out a ton of volume. He's very good, man. This is a fight that could go either way. You know, sometimes, you know, Ramos has had trouble in the past with guys that are really pressuring him and keeping him backing up, which is kind of how Jourdain likes to fight. I do, man. I don't know. This is one where I'm really. Ramos does have, you know, really nice trip takedowns, good grappling, and man, so there's something my gut is telling me to go with Ramos here. There's something in me telling me that screaming that he's going to win by submission. I'm a fan of Jourdain's more so. I want him to win, but there's something screaming at me that Ramos is going to get a submission win here. And I don't know why, but I am going to listen to it, listen to my gut this time, and we'll see how it works out, man. So I'll take Ramos to win by submission, let's say round 2. Next up, we got the co-main event. Bryce Mitchell taking on Dan Ige. Bryce Mitchell is 28 years old, 5'10" with a 70-inch reach. He is 15-1 and 6-1 in the UFC, and he's a minus 155 favorite. Excuse me, I'm gonna grab some water. So I've said this before, man, in some of my other videos. Bryce is very good at what he does. You know, he's a great wrestler. He doesn't have good stand-up. You know, if he can't get the takedowns, you know, he's not in a good position. You know, I think that's pretty obvious. But his best win was over Edson Barboza, but that was Edson Barboza late into his career now. He does get everybody down, 9 wins by submission, but he's only got 1 finish in the UFC, and it was over Matt Sales. All of his other fights have gone to decision. He's never won or lost a fight by knockout. And yeah, he's very good at what he does, man. Nice ground and pound. Just kind of hard to get excited for the way he fights, man. And you know, we saw what happened when he fought a guy with legit takedown defense in Ilia Topuria. I mean, Topuria is, you know, one of the best out there right now, of course, so you can't hold it against him too much. But now Mitchell is fighting these guys at the top of the division, and he's going to start having a little bit more trouble, in my opinion, than he's used to. You know, he did land a few good shots on Topuria, I guess, in the first round. He was kind of throwing a lot of, like, push kicks and stuff and kicks up top, but he wasn't putting a lot on him. I think he was just trying to give Topuria something to think about so he could look for a takedown. There's not much more I can say, man. I think Bryce is a really cool guy. You know, I like his way of life. I grew up out in the country, man. I'm hoping to move back there one day. He's just relentless with his wrestling, man, and he takes everybody down. He even took Topuria down for a few seconds. But yeah, he's taking on Dan Ige. He is 32 years old, 5'7" with a 71-inch reach, and he's 17-6 and 9-5 in the UFC. He's a plus 135 underdog. And I'm struggling with myself, man. It's so hard for me to sit here and not talk for like 15 minutes about each fight or 10 minutes. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Dan's, man, and I had money on him in his last 2 fights, and he's going to want to do the same thing that Topuria did out here. He's going to want to keep a low stance and use his superior striking and keep Bryce backing up and pressure him. Don't let Bryce move forward. And, you know, Dan's never been finished. He's got 5 wins by knockout, 5 wins by submission, and I'm pretty sure the only person that was able to take Dan down and keep him down was Movsar Evliev. So no shame in that. That guy gets everybody down. Dan has really good hands. His boxing is on point. Very powerful in the pocket. When he gets in the pocket, man, he does serious damage and very, very nasty. And he has 5-round cardio. He's not going to get tired, man. Likes to dig shots to the body. Great uppercuts. Good dirty boxing in the clinch. Good takedown defense for the most part. Puts out pretty good volume. He looked very good in his last fight. He didn't take a lot of damage at all. And you know, he beat Nate Landwehr, man. That's no easy task, man. So. But yeah, Dan's definitely not going to get tired, man. He does good at heading guys off, you know, not following them, but, you know, heading them off and cutting off the cage. He's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage here. And, yeah, I'm not super confident in this, man. I am going to pick Dan Ige to win. Bryce has never been knocked out before. I do I do really want to pick Dan by knockout, um, but I'll take him to win by decision, man. I think he'll win the fight on damage. Maybe Bryce will get some takedowns or whatever, but not do much with them. And maybe while Dan's on the feet, he'll do more damage and land the bigger shots. But I'm hoping he's able to keep it up, man, and possibly finish Bryce, man. Um, that probably isn't going to be a very popular pick. I'm sure everyone's going with Bryce Mitchell, but I'd like to take it on Danny Gay, man. Next up, we got the main event. Rafael Fiziev taking on Mateusz Gamrot. And yeah, this is going to be, well, I don't know. This could also be a very boring fight, possibly, depending on if Gamrot can get Fiziev down or not. Um, so Fiziev is 30 years old. He's 5'8" with a 71.5-inch reach. Uh, and he is 12-2 and 6-2 in the UFC. He's a minus 130 favorite. And yeah, this is another guy I'm a very big fan of, man. Of course, Fiziev is a very talented Muay Thai striker with solid takedown defense. Nobody's really been able to get him down yet, and I think he may have only been taken down like one time in the UFC, and he's usually very good at getting back to his feet. He's got 5-round cardio, man. His power carries over late into the fight. Throws clean wheel kicks, all kinds of creative stuff. He's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. Really nice footwork. He's one of the coaches at Tiger Muay Thai. I don't know if he still is. I know he was the head coach at Tiger Muay Thai. Really technical and explosive. Doesn't telegraph his shots, especially his kicks, man. They just come right up there. Freaking can't even see them coming. No wind up at all. He's been doing, Muay Thai since age 11. Also trained combat sambo and boxing and jiu-jitsu. He has so many championships in Muay Thai that I'm not even going to try and say them all. Really good at countering, very creative. He's one of the only guys you'll see countering with high kicks. He's just so good and fast with them that he counters punches with them. He has 8 wins by knockout, 1 win by submission. And, the only bad thing I could say would be that he's not the biggest lightweight. He usually looks smaller than his opponents. It makes me wonder if he could possibly make 145 one day, but he's had a lot of success at lightweight, so why would he, I guess? He doesn't ever back up. He always walks his opponents down. He did get beat by Justin Gaethje, man, and there's no shame in that. Gaethje's, on a tear right now, and, he's only going to learn from that and get better, so. And, yeah, he's taking on Mateusz Gamrot. He's 32 years old, 5'10" with a 70.5-inch reach, and he is 22-2 and 5-2 in the UFC, and he's a plus 110 underdog. And, yeah, in my opinion, Gamrot's gotten away with a few robberies. In his last fight, he did get takedowns, but he didn't really do a lot of damage with them. I kind of thought Turner could have won that fight, man. I know he did get the takedowns, but Turner was hurting him. Yeah, he seemed to be struggling a little bit, man. And his game plan is always the same: use his wrestling, get the takedowns. 7 wins by knockout, 5 wins by submission. And I think he's kind of getting up to the point in the UFC where he's going to start really having some trouble with some guys. He will probably be the best wrestler that Fiziev has faced yet. I thought, Gamrot lost the Arman Sarukian fight. I thought that was a robbery. He's very good with his ankle picks and his trips. He doesn't stand a chance on the feet here. And this is another one that I'm not super confident in, man. He may get the takedowns, but no one else has. At one point, I was thinking I would go with Gamrot due to the wrestling, but I'm taking Fiziev to win, man. I'm gonna say that Gamrot looked gassed out in the 3rd round against Jalen Turner, and this is a 5-round fight. So I think Fiziev, may get taken down a little bit in the beginning of the fight, but I think he's going to come through and get a late finish, man, and it'll be the first time that Gamrot's been knocked out. So unless Gamrot gets the takedowns, then he's just going to hold him down for the whole time. But yeah, man, I'll take Fiziev to win by knockout round 4. And that's it for all the picks, guys. As far as my bets go, let me pull these up. And like I said, this is a card that I probably would have just stayed away from for the most part if I didn't have the channel. But yeah, I did put a play on Brian Battle. It was a minus 200, and it was a 1-unit play. And then I put a 2-fight parlay together that was Argueta and Usman, and that's a plus 134, and it's a 1-unit play. And, that's good odds on that, plus 134. That's not a bad line at all. So hopefully at least one of these hit. That way I will come out come out all right. But and then as far as parlays, man, I got a 3-fight parlay that's Argueta, Battle, and Usman. That's plus 245. And y'all know, if y'all watch the channel, y'all know if it's more than 3 fights, I usually only put either 100 or $50 on them. I don't put a whole lot into my parlays because even though I have had quite a few hits since I've been having the channel and stuff, for the most part, there's usually always somebody that messes it up. So, and then to those three, I added Fialho and Rodriguez, and that's a plus 576. I'll leave them up for a second so you can see them. And then to that, I mean, the way I do them is always the same people, and then I just add more down the line, And so to that I added inoue and Vidal, and that's a plus 1220. And then to that I added Ramos. I added Ramos, Ige, and Fiziev to it at the very end. All my, well, 2 underdogs anyway, and that's a plus 10,360. And I think there was a couple. There might have been 1 or 2 fights I left off of this. I think Jacob Malkoun wasn't on Bovada at the time when I was putting these together, so he didn't make it on there. But I'm also considering another 2-fight parlay that I was thinking on, and it's Malkoun and Marina Rodriguez. With the odds that they're at right now, they're both pretty big favorites. I think it would be like a minus 130, 125 area like that. So that's another one, if y'all are interested, think about that. I think that would be a pretty good one. Just wish the odds were better. But yeah, man, so that's all, man. I'm going to go try and enjoy myself, and thank you guys so much for caring what I have to say. Please like and subscribe, man. And yeah, man, y'all have a good one, man. I appreciate all you guys.